Chair.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We started development on Guild Wars 1.
You know, this is a really big day
our
for
very
us.
first campaign
back
was
when we
Factions
started development
in
on Guild Wars 1.
And it was our first
very
ever
first campaign
expansion
was
Factions.
We were coming off of a big win
and
shipping
it was
our first major live update, Star Wars Furnace, for those of you who remember that.
We were coming off of a big win
Factions was
shipping our first major live update,
Star Wars Furnace, for those of you who remember that.
We
and
never
Factions
made an
was
expansion
incredible
before
as a studio, and so many of the lessons we learned from that expansion really resonate in the way even we still approach expansions today. It's been 15 years, doesn't feel like that long. It's been 15 years since we first visited Cantha in the Guild Wars franchise, and it's truly special for all of us to finally get a chance to go back there once more.
You know, small claim to fame here. If you have a copy of Guild Wars Factions, I can proudly say the screenshots on the back were taken by yours truly.
Nice work.
Yeah, that's right. So in addition to being the setting of our first ever expansion, Cantha was also home to the final story we told in Guild Wars Beyond, the content we created in Guild Wars to bridge the gap to Guild Wars 2. That content, Winds of Change, was also the last piece of content I personally got to work on in Guild Wars 2, so it holds a really special place in my heart. But today, we're talking about End of Dragons. Basically, from the day we announced Guild Wars 2, plays have been Cantha win.
I remember right around launch, there was an interview with a content creator, Matt Visual, and the entire interview, he just kept saying Cantha and staring at me over and over again, waiting for me to twitch or give away anything whatsoever that would give a hint as to when Cantha was coming.
And I remember Dan Howells just straight up hounding me to say Cantha confirmed during a live stream.
That's right. Well, Matt, Dan, and all of you who wondered about Cantha, today is your lucky day. We promised you a tidal wave of information for End of Dragons, and we are ready to deliver that. We have members of the End of Dragons development team joining us throughout the rest of the show, and this is only the beginning. Today is just your first look. We're going to be giving you more details on everything we announced today leading up to the launch of End of Dragons. We also don't want to spoil everything. We're going to save lots of things for you to discover for yourself when End of Dragons launches in early 2022. So let's start your first look right now with the brand new End of Dragons trailer.
There's familiarity in this strangeness. Like a song half remembered, a tune without words to carry it. I know you, and yet I don't.
You will soon, little one.
Who are you talking to?
Just an echo in the mist. A possibility.
Look around us. Your children would be trapped in the past, if not for me. Their worlds are carved from the jade that I gave purpose. I promised them a future. A century of progress cannot end this way. I'm not... Cantha's not just a spoke in some grand cosmic wheel.
Would a great innovator give up so easily on that promised future?
I won't. I'll find a way to save us all. Is out there. What are we waiting for?
We hope you liked the new trailer. If you're not already, tell us in chat what you think. There's a lot in there for everyone to go back and dig through and find, and we encourage you to go rewatch the trailer after the show and see what else you can discover.
Were those Aether Blades that were back there?
Evidently.
And who was that mysterious Asura that was next to Anka? Could it be the replacement for the untimely death Horik?
Possibly. So we got to see the trailer, and I'm excited for them to find everything out. But that is just the beginning of today's reveals. The first area of End of Dragons we're going to take a look at is a slightly deeper look into the story, the setting, and the world.
Something I'm really proud of in End of Dragons is how closely the narrative and design team worked together to shape the themes and the story of the expansion.
Yeah.
The gameplay and the narrative truly complement one another.
They do. So let's hear from some of those developers on the narrative and design teams about the story and the setting of Cantha.
End of Dragons is the culmination of so much of what we've been doing in the Guild Wars 2 story up until this point.
We have a lot of really compelling open story threads that we've built up over the years, and we're going to pay off a lot of them in End of Dragons. And I think players should be excited about how we've weaved all these different interpersonal stories with the great cosmological questions of Tyria into some satisfying payoffs that I think they'll really enjoy.
Last time we were in Cantha was for the Winds of Change content pack for Guild Wars 1. And what we basically saw was there is a lot of lingering consequences of Shiro's rise. And we teamed up with this group, the Ministry of Purity, in order to try to purify the region. They didn't stop at just trying to purify like disease. They started trying to kick out everybody else who didn't fit with their ideal image of what they wanted Cantha to be like.
And then they closed off to the rest of the world. And that was where we left things. So it's easy to imagine that because Cantha was closed off, that they would become a time capsule. However, they've been affected by the same events that have been affecting the rest of Tyria. The rise of Zhaitan, the death of Balthazar, all of these things have had just as much of an effect on Cantha as they have had on the rest of the world.
We actually, as a team, fairly early on, made a timeline of all the major events that happened in the world and how they would have affected Cantha in order to try to figure out how this world would have been shaped over time.
Longtime fans who really loved Cantha and Guild Wars 1 are gonna find a ton to love, and frankly, new players might have their minds blown a little bit.
It wouldn't be Guild Wars 2, it wouldn't be the story of the commander without the commander's allies. In End of Dragons, we find ourselves traveling with Marjorie and Casimir. I think anybody who really misses Jory the detective is in for a treat.
The most important familiar face that's going to be accompanying us on our journey into Cantha is Aurene. Aurene's story has become sort of the spine of the Guild Wars 2 story.
Aurene is constantly grappling with her responsibility and how much she needs to do, and her trying to feel that out is going to have repercussions for the entire world.
In this expansion, we have really breathed life into every corner of the world that we could. You know, there are so many little moments throughout the world, moments that touch you, moments that make you laugh, moments that make you cry. You know, this team is so good at just bringing emotions to the surface.
What I'm most proud about is how we were able to really craft a story that very elegantly blends the gameplay elements that I think Guild Wars 2 is really strong at, with a story that just keeps a really frenetic pace and lets you live out in this world while also experiencing a lot of really cool gameplay moments.
There are so many things that I am excited about people experiencing for the story of End of Dragons. One, just from a design perspective, we have so much technology that has improved or has been entirely new since the last time we made an expansion. And as a result, this expansion has some really unique, cool set pieces that I think are going to blow people's minds.
Hello, I'm Erika Ishii, and I play June in End of Dragons.
Like Connor said, the story in End of Dragons is the culmination of a lot of long-running story threads, from stories that began 15 years ago, all the way up to stories and events that you took part in over the past year.
And what he said about building a timeline for Cantha was 100% true.
Yeah.
I guess somebody who loves the world building part of the job, like, it was a great experience to sit down with the narrative team and some designers and like sort of plot out the last 100 or so years of the history of an empire.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. One of our goals with this expansion is to create a world and story that's familiar and exciting to those of you who remember Cantha from Factions, but also accessible and equally exciting to those of you who are visiting it for the first time.